"Old man, don't come to our Christmas party." The words hit me like a sudden gust of winter wind. Sharp, cutting, delivered with the arrogance only my son could muster. David, standing in my living room, fists clenched, face red with anger, looked every bit the young man I had raised, but twisted by entitlement and ignorance. Behind him, his wife, Emily, leaned against the wall, her arms crossed, eyes wide with a mixture of guilt and defiance. I set down the mug of cocoa I had been sipping, feeling the warmth seep away. This was my son, the boy I had held on my shoulders as a child, the one I had stayed awake with through fevers and scraped knees, shouting instructions when he didn't listen. And now he spoke to me like I was an intruder in my own home, trying to ban me from a celebration I had helped create and loved for decades. "You're serious?" I asked quietly, voice calm, deliberate. "You really think you can tell me not to come into my own home on Christmas?" David's jaw tightened. "I am serious. This is our party. Our friends, our family, and you. You always come uninvited, disrupt everything. Enough is enough." Emily stepped forward, attempting to mediate, though uncertainty flickered across her face. "Dad, he's just trying to set boundaries. You should respect them." Respect. The word stung, used as a weapon when they had shown none for years. I had spent decades building this life, nurturing this home, sacrificing to provide a safe, warm environment. And now I was to be dismissed with a single, arrogant command. "You don't understand," I said, keeping my voice low but firm. "This isn't just about a party. It's about respect, family, and the legacy of what we've built. This house, these traditions, this life, it's mine as much as yours. And disrespect has consequences." David scoffed. "Legacy? Dad, it's a party. You need to stay home. You can't just waltz in and ruin everything." I walked slowly to the window, hands behind my back, observing him pacing. Every step, every gesture he made revealed cracks. Beneath the bluster, I saw fear, uncertainty, the seeds of self-doubt I had planted over years of guidance. They thought they held power. They had no idea the storm they had triggered. "I've prepared for people like you," I said quietly, almost to myself. "I've built this house, these accounts, these traditions with foresight. Threats, they don't scare me. They only show me how blind you've become." David froze, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. You can't just—" "Oh, but I can," I replied, calm, deliberate. "You think age has dulled me? That wisdom has faded? Patience, preparation, and quiet authority are far stronger than shouting and entitlement." Emily's confident mask began to crack. "Dad, this isn't necessary. I don't negotiate with disrespect," I interrupted. "I won't be barred from my own family celebrations by my own son. You've forgotten who built this home, who nurtured this family, and who instilled the values you now flaunt. Tomorrow will teach you a lesson, without anger, without shouting, but with quiet, undeniable authority." The sunlight slanted across the living room, illuminating every photograph, every memory embedded in the walls. Outside, the world moved along obliviously, but inside, tension thickened. I let them stew in their arrogance, unaware that every move they made was already anticipated. By nightfall, the house was still, but the storm had not passed. I sat quietly, sipping cocoa, letting the weight of preparation settle around me. Patience, strategy, and foresight were my allies. Tomorrow would not be another Christmas of shouting or insults. It would be a lesson, delivered with quiet precision. That arrogance and disrespect have consequences, and in the stillness I realized, sometimes, the strongest hand in a family is the one that does not strike, but waits patiently, letting life itself deliver justice. I barely slept that night. The house was quiet, except for the soft ticking of the clock and the faint hum of the heater. But inside me, the gears were turning, planning, calculating, preparing. David and Emily had thought that shouting and arrogance could intimidate me. They were wrong. They didn't understand the quiet strength of someone who had spent decades building, protecting, and guiding a family. Before dawn, I rose and walked through the rooms, my hands brushing against furniture, photographs, and walls steeped in memory. Each object reminded me of sacrifices made, of lessons taught, of winters spent ensuring warmth and care for my children. And now these same walls would witness the consequences of disrespect. In my study, I spread out folders I had prepared weeks earlier, legal documents, property papers, account statements, and other records that clearly outlined ownership and authority over the house and traditions within it. Every line, every signature, every detail had been meticulously planned. David and Emily had believed that threats and anger could force compliance. But strategy, foresight, and patience were far stronger weapons than shouting. David came down mid-morning, storming toward me with that same fiery arrogance. "Dad, just leave. Don't make this harder than it already is," he shouted, trying to dominate the room. I looked up, calm, unshaken. "Harder? No, my boy. Today will not be hard. It will be clear. It will be a lesson you cannot ignore. Shouting does not create authority. Respect does. And disrespect has consequences." Emily tried to intervene. "Dad, we're not trying to hurt you. We just you want control," I interrupted, my voice soft but cutting. "You think entitlement gives power. But power is earned. And in this house the rules are clear. Respect first, arrogance last." David froze for a moment, the cracks in his bravado starting to show. You can't just—" "I can," I said, standing deliberately, letting the weight of my presence fill the room. "You've confused aggression with strength. You've confused shouting with leadership. Tomorrow you will understand the difference." The day passed in a tense rhythm. I moved through the house with purpose, subtly preparing for the morning's revelation. David and Emily were oblivious, caught up in their impatience and entitlement, unaware that each misstep, each word, each gesture had been anticipated. By late afternoon, everything was in place. Legal papers finalized, notices prepared, strategy executed with quiet precision. The power in the house was not theirs, it had never left my hands. They simply didn't realize it yet. As night fell, I sat in my chair, sipping tea, observing the quiet before the storm. The lessons of respect, patience, and humility would unfold tomorrow. And when they did, they would learn not through shouting or threats, but through the undeniable authority of foresight, preparation, and moral strength. Sometimes, the most effective action is silent. Sometimes the loudest lesson comes from watching life itself deliver the consequence. Tomorrow, David and Emily would witness that truth fully. The morning came with an uneasy calm. Sunlight poured through the windows, glinting off ornaments and decorations that David and Emily had hung with such pride, oblivious to the tension brewing beneath the surface. They moved through the house like restless shadows, unaware that the balance of power had already shifted. They believed this would be another day of shouting and empty threats, but they were wrong. I greeted them at the dining room table, my hands folded over the meticulously organized folders of documents. My calm presence immediately unsettled David. His bravado, so loud and unyielding the day before, wavered in the face of my quiet authority. Emily hovered behind him, attempting to shield him. But even she could feel the tension crackle in the air. "Dad, this isn't fair," David snapped, pacing the room, fists clenching and unclenching nervously. "You can't just do whatever you want." "I can," I said calmly, opening the folder and letting the documents fall gently across the table. Property deeds, legal notices, account statements, all evidence that the house and its traditions were mine to protect. You've spent years believing entitlement equals power. It does not. Authority is earned, respect is earned. and arrogance is met with consequence. David's face paled. For the first time, his confidence wavered. This isn't real. You can't kick me out. I leaned forward slightly, letting the weight of my gaze settle on him. Kick you out? Perhaps. But more importantly, you are about to learn a lesson that cannot be undone. You have disrespected boundaries, disregarded wisdom, and demanded what is not yours. Today, those lessons will unfold. Emily stepped closer, voice trembling. Dad, please. We didn't mean. Intentions matter little when actions speak louder, I interrupted. You think shouting, threats, and disrespect give you the upper hand. They do not. You will see the consequences of arrogance clearly, calmly, without drama-only inevitability. The hours stretched on as I executed my plan with quiet precision. Calls were made, legal notices finalized, and arrangements for the morning's formalities confirmed. Every detail had been anticipated. David and Emily continued to squabble, pacing through the living room, oblivious to the fact that their supposed leverage was already stripped away. Late afternoon came, and I placed the eviction notice on the table. Their expressions froze, mouths slightly open, eyes wide with disbelief. The arrogance that had fueled their defiance evaporated in an instant, replaced by shock and fear. They realized, too late, that threats and shouting could never overpower preparation and foresight. David's hands shook as he reached toward the papers, but I stopped him with a single gesture. Do not touch, observe, learn. This is not about punishment. It is about clarity, responsibility, and respect. You demanded power without understanding it. Now you will witness the consequences of arrogance firsthand. Emily's confident posture crumbled entirely. Her hand fell to her side, fingers trembling. Dad, we didn't know it would go this far. It is never about going too far, I said softly, my voice carrying both authority and calm patience. It is about accountability. You have chosen to disrespect, to demand, to assume. Now you face the results of those choices. The day faded into evening. The house, once tense with anticipation, became a stage for reflection. David slumped into a chair, staring blankly at the documents. The defiance that had burned so brightly the previous day was extinguished, leaving only realization, fear, and a dawning respect. I moved through the room with quiet steps, hands brushing against the walls, furniture, and photos that bore witness to decades of life. I was calm, confident, and fully in control. Every lesson I had waited to teach was now being absorbed, not with violence, not with shouting, but with the undeniable clarity of inevitability. By nightfall, David and Emily sat in silence. Their resentment had faded, replaced with humility, understanding, and the beginning of remorse. The eviction was not simply legal, it was moral, a reflection of consequences long ignored. They had learned, perhaps for the first time, that respect is never demanded. It is recognized, earned, and maintained. I returned to my chair, sipping tea, letting the quiet of the home settle over me. The lesson had been delivered. Arrogance had been humbled. Respect restored. And I realized once again that true strength is not measured by noise, threats, or anger, but by patience, foresight, and the quiet authority of experience. Tomorrow would bring a new day, and with it, the beginning of reconciliation. David and Emily would rebuild, yes, but this time, with humility, understanding, and a respect that could not be ignored. And I, as their father, could finally observe the calm victory of wisdom and preparation fulfilled. The morning sun filtered through the windows, casting soft light over the living room, where ornaments glittered and the smell of pine mingled with warm coffee. David paced nervously, his brow furrowed, hands fidgeting, every step betraying the tension that had replaced yesterday's arrogance. Emily clutched her sweater, eyes wide, a mixture of guilt, disbelief, and dawning respect washing over her face. For the first time, they realized that shouting, threats, or force could not overpower preparation, foresight, and quiet authority. I rose from my chair, walking slowly to the table where the eviction notice, documents, and property papers lay meticulously arranged. My silver-gray hair was neat, healthy, and glimmered softly in the sunlight. My posture was upright, my shoulders steady. I had spent years building this life, protecting this home, and guiding my children. Now, after decades of patience and foresight, the lessons I had long planned were about to unfold fully. David's voice trembled. "Dad, I didn't realize it would go this far. We thought we had. You thought arrogance was power." I interrupted gently, setting my tea down and letting the calm authority in my gaze fill the room. "You believed shouting and entitlement could bend reality to your will. But respect is not demanded. It is observed. It is earned. And when you ignore it, consequences are unavoidable." Emily's hands fell to her sides. Her posture, once confident, now reflected humility. We didn't mean to disrespect you. We didn't understand." "Yes," I replied softly. "You didn't understand. Understanding begins with recognition, with accountability. Today, you see the result of entitlement and disregard. The house, the traditions, and the life we share are not yours to command. They are ours to honor and protect." David slumped into a chair, staring at the documents, the color drained from his face. I thought I was right. I thought I could control things. "Intentions matter little when actions cause harm," I said calmly. "Your arrogance has consequences. Today, you see them clearly. Not because of anger or punishment, but because life teaches the hardest lessons when boundaries are ignored." I walked slowly through the room, hands brushing against furniture, photographs, and the walls that bore decades of memory. Each step reinforced the quiet power I held, not through shouting, but through patience, preparation, and unwavering moral strength. David and Emily followed in silence, the weight of realization heavy upon them. The day stretched into afternoon, and I invited them to sit at the dining table. Together, we reviewed the documents, ownership papers, legal notices, and the eviction order. Each line, each signature, each clause made it clear: the house, the legacy, and the traditions were to be treated with respect. David and Emily absorbed the clarity, their earlier defiance replaced with humility and understanding. Hours passed. I observed them adjusting, moving with care, speaking softly, and recognizing that entitlement alone could not govern a home built on decades of love, sacrifice, and patience. Every glance, every gesture, every subtle action reflected the lessons beginning to sink in. By evening, the tension in the house had shifted. David and Emily were subdued but attentive, absorbing the reality of accountability. They were no longer defiant. They were learning. They were beginning to see that authority is not inherited, demanded, or shouted. It is earned and recognized. I guided them gently through the rest of the day, letting them experience the calm authority of preparation and foresight. We went through the Christmas preparations together, not as a battlefield, but as a family reclaiming harmony. Their humility, once absent, now informed their actions. Their respect, once ignored, now shaped their behavior. Weeks passed, and the house settled into a peaceful rhythm. David and Emily began rebuilding trust, moving thoughtfully, speaking considerately, and embracing the lessons of accountability and humility. I watched, quietly satisfied, as the arrogance that had dominated the house faded entirely. Respect and understanding took its place. One snowy evening, I stood by the window, watching the neighborhood bathed in soft light. I reflected on the lessons delivered, not with shouting, not with threats, but with patience, foresight, and moral authority. True power, I realized, is silent, measured, and enduring. It is the ability to prepare, to act with strategy, and to allow life itself to teach the hardest lessons. David approached, head bowed, voice quiet. Dad, thank you. For showing me how wrong I was. For guiding me without anger. I placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling the tension melt into understanding. Remember, it is never about power or domination. It is about respect, accountability, and humility. You will carry these lessons forward, and they will shape who you are. Emily nodded, her eyes glistening. We understand now. We will honor this house, these traditions, and you. We will act with care and respect. And in that quiet home, lit by the warm glow of the Christmas lights and the soft falling snow, I felt complete peace. The arrogance had been humbled. The house, the family, and the traditions were secure. Respect had been restored. And dignity, always dignity, had triumphed. Sometimes, the loudest lessons are taught in silence. Sometimes, the strongest victories are quietly earned. And sometimes, the greatest gift a parent can give is the lesson that respect, patience, and moral strength always prevail. The house settled into calm serenity, snow lightly drifting past the windows. And I realized that this Christmas, more than any other, had become a true testament to the power of preparation, foresight, and quiet authority.